All right, I'm gonna be working with Atlas today with the Surcingle, and this is just gonna be a little bit of a progress video. So we've seen the first video with him in the Surcingle, and he was a little tight and tense about it. I'm gonna go a bit slower here, but show the progress as well. So I'm letting him just touch it with his nose, and throughout the first few lessons with this, that's where I'll start every time. And so now when you see I can touch him on the neck with that, and he didn't really move a lot, so that's looking a lot better. And then a little bit further down on his neck. Again, that looked really good. Like his neck didn't move. His ear flicked toward me when I clicked to him, but that looks really nice. Like that's a sign that he's waiting for that click. So not a lot of tension here at all. That looks really good. I'm just kind of doing the whole process, just making sure he's cool with all those little pieces. So in the first video, you saw him just touch it with his nose and then with the side of his cheek and then down to his neck and I think on the front of his shoulder. And now I'm going a little bit further here and just clicking every time it touches him. So that's what we've been working on. I think I have another video that I didn't film or didn't put in here and another one that I didn't film. Like he's had a couple sessions between the first video and this one, but it's the same process. So I'm just touching him. He's not flinching. So all these are really great signs that we're making progress. And I definitely think we could have made a lot faster progress if I would have been a little bit slower in the beginning, which sounds contradictory, but if I let him explore it more and kind of make a bigger choice for him, like on his own, and not trying to put it on his back right away, then I think he would have been more confident with it. I wouldn't have to repeat it as much. So, but this looks really great. I'm just trying to make it as positive as possible and just rewarding every time I touch him with it. And I'm adding a little bit more Surcingle each time I'm touching him on the back here. And I'm letting the buckles hit the panels and make some noise. I'm not trying to hide that. That's going to be an important part of this desensitizing because, once he's saddled, the girth could hit the ground, the buckles are going to make noise, stuff's going to make noise on his back, and it's not one of those things that you can escape in the real world, so I want to get him used to as much movement and sound as I possibly can. So that it's really just helping me out with having the buckles and stuff touch the panels. So that's really good. So I'm just having him target my hand and kind of straighten out a little bit because I'm going to turn him to the other side here. But it's important to have that kind of middle step there when they're turning because Castor, my other Mustang, he likes to just swing himself from side to side. So we had to add that in. But I started with Atlas from the beginning with that, so he's a bit better at it. But that's an important part of this is having that middle, he follows my hand target, or you can use a different target, but he's got that, he straightens out part and then he lines up on the other side. So same process, other side. He's a little bit calmer on this side, but it's gonna be the same thing. Can he touch it with his nose? Can he touch it with his cheek? Can he touch it with his neck? And then I work my way down his body. Same thing. I'm not gonna just assume since he had it on his left side that I can just go ahead and throw it over his back from his right side. That's not how horses work. Yes, eventually that is how it'll be, but this is the training process, so that's not how it is in the process. I want to make sure everything is taught to him very thoroughly. But another thing is you can see his reaction to this, compared to the first video, he is a lot more relaxed. He's kind of looking for the food, his eyes relaxed, his head's not up and tense, he's listening, but he's not worried and has that kind of fidget in him. He's not flinching either. And obviously the outside was different that day too, but those are just important things to remember. He came up and targeted on his own. That was really good. I really liked that a lot. And then we're gonna move on. This is a couple days later, different session. So like I was saying before in the other clip, the different days are really important, the different weather, you can tell he's just completely different. And so it's important to have training days on those cold days or windy days or rainy days, just so they get used to that as well. But again, just like I said before, same process, different day until we have it solid. So it doesn't have to take forever. I could be like, okay, are you cool with this? And he's like, yep, I'm cool with that. And it takes 2 seconds, or I could be like, are you cool with this today? And he's like, no. And then we have to go back and make sure. But again, that's only for the training process. So And eventually down the road, if I went to go saddle him and he was like worried about something and I'm like, this isn't normal, then he's telling you something. It's not like, oh, this horse is being bad, he should know this. Like, it's an opportunity for you to dig a little bit deeper, be like, okay, well, what's going on that's different today? How's the horse feeling? What has changed in his environment? What's the weather look like? All those kind of things. So just use it as information versus a source of your frustration. So I think that's important. But again, I'm going to do the same process, and then we're going to just kind of add in a little bit different movements with the Surcingle, a little bit more of it, and just kind of gradually add that in. You can see his skin was flinching a little bit there. Not too bad. Like, I wouldn't necessarily go back a step at this point. That was better, but I definitely keep that into account. Like, make a note of it when you notice it, or just be aware of it and notice it in the first place, because it's important. That looks good. Kind of stroking him with it. And now it's like more of the Surcingle is coming through the fence, so like it looks from his perspective like he's got some on his back, and then he's got this long line of like the girth from the panel to his back, and that could be scary, but I want him to see that and get used to that as well. All right, I'm gonna move on to the other side here. Oh, I believe this is a different day as well. So I was wearing the same coat, but this is a different day. So I went ahead and I'm always doing the same lessons on each side. I might just not show it in the video, but it is the same process. But sometimes it's just not necessary because it's the same unless something goes really well or really bad, and I can kind of put it in and talk about it. But other than that, that's what's going on. So he might be a little bit more worried on this day just because it's a lot windier than the last two. So take that into account, but just go about your training session as you would and just kind of watch for signs that he's getting worried. There, he was a little worried, like you could see him flinch there, like he wasn't so sure about that one. But when I repeat it again, he looks better, so that's good. So that's something to take into account as well, is when you're training this and you're like, okay, he flinched that time. Okay, the next time, does he flinch or does he get better? Like, if he gets better, you're like, okay, maybe he was just, one thing scared him or he wasn't quite ready or something like that. If he continues to flinch, like, let's go back a step because something's not working out here. He's not completely confident. So it's not just it's on my back now. It's like something is wrong. He's not completely okay with that step yet. Now I'm working a little bit further back, and I definitely understand that Surcingles don't go on the hindquarters, but I want him to feel it all over on his body, and just in case it would like to slide off or, something could happen, and it's just good for him to have objects touch him all over and be okay with that, and have movement and sound touch his hind legs definitely is good. So I'm just desensitizing him all over his body with this object. So, and I try to do that with most objects too. So that time I asked him to follow the Surcingle. So I don't do this a lot. Like, he's used to doing that with the rope. Like you've seen in other videos, I'll kind of hold it up higher than I would normally. So that's like his cue, like, hey, come over here. And you can do that with other objects that he's afraid of, but be careful to make it a specific cue and not just you taking it, because if I'm trying to desensitize him to this and I'm just going to go like try to put on his back and he just wants to follow it, then it's going to make your life a little bit harder and he's going to be confused as well. So that just make sure that there's it's only used specifically and you have like a cue for it. So like I hold it up high and then he follows it. So that's important. I also say target. He knows what that is, but just something to think about when you're training that. But that looks really nice. He's not flinching on this side. He's not moving at all. He looks fairly relaxed, so this looks really nice. I'm going to try to put a little bit more of the surcingle on him. I'm going to get toward the part where I let the girth part of the surcingle kind of fall down, and he'll have it over his back and then down one side of him. So that's what I'm working forward here. And he's a little worried there. He was like, I'm not sure if it was like a mix of the wind and the surcingle and then like some sound or something, because he had been so relaxed. But I'm going to be like, okay, it's fine, bring it back, and then just go back a step. So you can see I folded the surcingle again. I'm going to go back a step, make sure he's okay with that. So he's still flinching here, so he's not completely relaxed. So we have to go back a few steps and build his confidence before I go ahead and put it on him again. And I think that time, like, there was obviously, like, it was a trigger. So there's been trigger stacking here. Like, something happened, this happened, then it caused that. But previously, he had been okay with the surcingle. Like, he jumped the second time. So I think it was a combination of the environment and maybe the sounds and then the surcingle itself. But it's important to recognize, but it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, it's like, okay, these things he's worried about, let's take that into consideration. But, you're going to have that with any kind of training. So we ended on a good note there. And then we're come back a couple days later. This day was much warmer. I'm not wearing a coat, and it doesn't look nearly as windy. So I think he's a lot better here. This looks really good. I'm just going to go back and review again until it's perfect, until I can whip out the surcingle. He's excited to touch it, and then I can just toss it on him wherever. So and I have it like folded in half and over his back, so that looks really good. Very nice again. And I'm clicking while the surcingle is on him, taking it off, and then I'm feeding him. And right now I am clicking I'm feeding every click. So he's just in the beginning stage, and then we'll switch to a variable schedule after he's mastered this part, but he's just not ready yet. So now I'm gonna leave it on there for a second, click, take it off. So I have to build up to this part. So first I'm gonna have him target with his nose, and then I have him touch it with his whole body in a small way, like it's kind of folded up. And then I make it slightly bigger, and then I'm gonna start slowly letting him have it on his back. Probably shouldn't have left it on there quite that long. That was a long time. But like leave it on his back for 1 second, click, take it off, and then 2 seconds, and then 3 seconds, and so on. And then I want to mix it up. So I like this too, like where I have the girth over here. So it's, it's kind of scary like that. It's kind of, it looks scary. It looks like it's trying to get him, jump off, like something like he's attached to the panel is what it looks like. So I want him to be okay with that too. And then I want him to be okay with the girth kind of swinging under his belly. So once it swung down there, I clicked him for that. And watching this back, I probably shouldn't have done all those things at once. It's a good overview for this video, but I would have just worked on the surcingle laying on his back. And then once that looked okay, then have it just like still attached to the panel and laying over his back. And then have it, have the girth laying next to his side, and kind of broken that up more than I did here. But at the time when I was training it, I was like, oh yeah, I've taken plenty of steps, but I did not. When I watch it back, that's why it's hard. It's like you always need to have like another set of eyes watching you, or you recording yourself, so you can go back and be like, oh, okay. In the moment, it didn't feel like that, but that's what happened. So, and it comes with experience too, because this is my first experience like clicker training with Mustangs. So I've mixed a whole bunch of things together that I haven't done before, which is not usually the best of ideas. But I do have a lot of experience just training horses, like natural horsemanship way of going. So I do have that. I have a lot of negative reinforcement. So I think I just was like, yeah, if I know how to do that, I can do this. So yeah, I didn't realize how much I needed to know. But that's why I want to share these, is like, it's not perfect, but I can go back and look back on it. So here he is looking at something else. He's like not taking food. He's not interested. So this is also important to notice too. So he's like, for some reason he's deciding not to have food. So that is an important key there. And it can be multiple different things. So he could be distracted, he could be afraid, he could be just kind of full and uninterested, or he could just have like too much food. So I went ahead, gave him a break, and then I'm going to come back and try again. So I think maybe he just had too much there, because now he's okay, but that is important to pay attention to. But back to what I was saying before is I think it's important to watch these, and I had some good things that I was doing, and then come back and be like, okay, but these things I would fix and this thing that I would fix. And it's a little bit of the how-to, but it's also like the journey of the whole training process, which I think is important. But just going back to desensitizing to the Surcingle on the other side, the same way I did on his left side or his right side. And just getting him used to seeing it in different positions. I'm kind of just moving it around a little bit more. I'm not being as like gentle with it. Like it's kind of sliding around, it's moving around, you know, it's not as quiet as it was in the beginning. So that's important for him too, because I just want to kind of throw the Surcingle on and do your thing. So that's important. But that looks really good. Not too much worry there at all. That looks really nice. Like his head's relaxed. He's not real tense. He's not twitching. So all of this looks really good. Just like moving it around a little bit, and then I probably should have just clicked him for the 1 second and taken it off again. I wouldn't recommend leaving it on quite this long, because that's like multiple seconds. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's have him move forward. Which he did great. He did well. I just would have done it a bit slower watching this back. So but he's doing really well. He doesn't seem worried about it at all. And really, that's another reason I like this protected contact. Like if he got scared, just fall off, come back, we try again, you know, no big deal. If I was in there, like there's a greater chance like I could get run over and he's just panicking and trying to get away from it. And hopefully that doesn't happen. And, you know, we're paying attention to the calming signals and how he's feeling about it. But, you know, when I'm outside of the pen, that's not going to happen because he's in there by himself. So I just feel like it's much safer. So, and it forced me to listen to him more too as well. But this looks really nice. I think it would look even better if I slowed down a bit, but it looks really quite good. And I asked for that 1 step forward to my hand target. That looks really nice. And then he took that 1 step forward nicely, so I asked for a couple more and rewarded for that. So that was really quite good.